Hey, good evening, race fans, and welcome back to another Inside Edition of the Voice of Victory Lane podcast with Kip Thompson. Tonight's show is being sponsored by Barrier Fencing Supply out of Supply, North Carolina. They are a huge wholesaler and distributor of aluminum fencing, working on some really big deals right now with vinyl fencing. Be sure to contact those guys today for bulk pricing packages, and be sure to tell them that the Voice of Victory Lane podcast sent you their way. We're going to hear from them a little bit later on tonight in our show. And as we kick off tonight's show, we're super excited to have a very good friend of mine on the show tonight. He's a member of the Pierce Mill Fire Department. He's stationed over in Turn 3 at Fayetteville Motor Speedway on a weekly basis. And tonight we want to talk about safety at the racetrack, the guys who make sure we're all safe, take care of us, on and off the track. They respond to all of the caution flags. The guys who have wrecks on the racetrack, they're the first one on the scene to make sure that everyone is A-OK. His name is Lloyd Matthews, but at the racetrack, everyone knows him as Fatback, and we're super delighted to have him with us tonight. Fatback Matthews, hey, man, welcome to the show. Happy New Year. And, man, racing season is right around the corner.
Let's rock, Doc. First comment.
Let's rock, Doc. That is a signature statement you'll always hear out of Fatback Matthews any given night inside the Fayetteville Motor Speedway. Now, let's talk about some of the things that you do with the fire department. I know that you and I have done road trips together to and from racetracks, and I've heard you talk about your long career with the fire department. And I know that you made a statement to me one time that many years ago you took an oath to serve and protect people of Cumberland County and whatever district that you may be involved in. Let's talk about how you got started in that and what that really means to you, because I know that not only do you have a passion for racing, but keeping the fellow man safe and jumping in the time of need, you have a big, huge passion about that too.
Well, I do, Kip. Thank you for your kind words there, sir. I followed my father in the fire service. He was a member of this fire department for well over 25 years. My brother Danny followed Dad. He was a member of this fire department for many years. Still currently a member of another fire department, a couple districts over from us, Grays Creek. It's just something I started young. Always looked up to the firefighters. Being raised in it, in this department. Many of my heroes were the firefighters of this department. Some of them still are. Some still serving today. It's just a great organization. It's a fun place to be. We have a lot of fun, and we have a lot of serious times that require serious action. But still in all, we have a lot of fun. We love it. We take care of one another. We're a family. And we just can't say enough about the organization. It's an awesome place to be.
Well, I know I can say for myself, in the last 2 or 3 years, our relationship has gotten very close. I consider you a very close friend of mine. And, I always enjoy being down in the infield pit area inside the Carolina Bull Ring. You've got yourself, me, Wayne Gray, Freddie, and, a couple of guys with your staff. Brian, super nice guy. His dad even makes it out to the racetrack, from time to time. And I know those guys are special to you. But just give our viewers a little bit of insight on any given night at the racetrack, what it is you guys do, what you're there to do, what you're capable of doing, and let people know that, they're kind of silent heroes there around the racetrack, as I like to call you guys, that in the time of need, you guys jump to the call without hesitation.
Yeah, we love racing. First and foremost, we love racing. You mentioned Brian and Chief Marley, lifelong dirt fans. I mean, we've been at Fayetteville Motor Speedway. Brian and I have all of our lives. The Chief has for much of his. We just love dirt track racing. And we love incorporating what we do into what they do. A lot of what you see on that racetrack, sitting in the stands or standing wherever you're at, don't matter. A lot of things look really grim, look really bad. To say the race cars today, they're very well built race cars, and the men in the cockpit are very safe. Most of the time, things go wrong, things go south, and then we try to attend to it as best we can. Each situation calls for different tactics, and we approach it the way we approach everything the same way, with open eyes, and just try to figure out what to do next, what's best, and what's safest. Some things may be faster, but they are not safe. We don't take fast, we take safe. Every time we're going to take the safe route. It may take longer, but we're going to be satisfied that we took care of the person involved, the injured. Um, we took care of them to the best of our ability, and we've done it in a manner to preserve their long lasting health, not just what we can do right now. We want to make sure they last, that they're healthy for a long time.
Well, I can remember one time in particular in the 2022 race season. And before I get into that, let me add that me as a spectator, me as a fan, as a father who has my kids at the racetrack, I count it a blessing to be able to have people who are in your position that when something happens, you guys know exactly what to do, the steps to take. And, that's not for everybody. Everybody can't do that. But you guys do a phenomenal job. When Leighton Bartley, had his little deal last year in the outside pit area, that was a situation. I went up there honestly just to make sure my kids were okay, because I had no idea at that particular point, what was going on. But to see you guys jump in the heat of battle right there, everybody was kind of calm and collective. Everybody was scared to death as to what was going on. And you guys pulled that guy out of that race car, and he's still alive and racing with us today. I commend y'all for what you did that night. And I know there's been various other calls and incidents there, but, it takes a special person. It takes a special group to be able to know exactly what to do when you're called upon, and you guys do it to a T.
Yeah, it's a team effort, Kip. The incident you spoke of with Leighton, just so happens that night, as I mentioned a while ago, we are family, and we're a team. When Leighton had his situation that night, I was on the scene. Brian, he's assistant chief, our fire department, he was on the scene, but in the pits, not even on my truck. Didn't have nothing to do with me. We had Chief Dove from Cotton Fire Department, Assistant Chief Dove. We had Captain Hewlin from Cotton. We had Assistant Chief Kevin Morgan from the City of Fayetteville Fire Department. All at the racetrack doing different things, not even involved in my truck. But when it came time for what happened, you saw what happened, we had to peel the lid off that car. We had Chief Dove up there in a racing suit. I mean, everybody jumped in on that call. That's what we're proud of, the ability to adapt and overcome. And that's what happened that night. It was an awesome process. It was smooth, it was professional, and it was safe. And that's where our pride comes from, knowing we conducted a safe extrication and we transported our victim safely to the hospital.
Well,
good job.
Again, I commend you on that, and also I'll applaud you on your choice of words, the ability to be able to adapt, because people who don't know, who are not used to seeing a tragedy or something that was of that magnitude, because there again, I mean, it was touch and go. It was a little scary there for a little bit, but you guys did. Y'all adapted, and for everybody else who was looking around, I mean, you guys were just doing what you do. And I'm not saying it was an awesome experience to see somebody in an accident like that, but to see trained, skilled individuals who love to do that, not just because it's at a racetrack, and as you say, we are a racing family, and we are, but it's just the ability to jump in and help fellow man. That could have been a perfect stranger that you didn't even know who it was. And I'm sure that over your career, you've gone to scenes, calls where you didn't know who was there, but it didn't matter. That's your job. that's the oath that you took. I know we've had this conversation before. I mean, I hate that people have accidents. I hate people have tragedy, but I enjoy, when we go on a road trip to a different racetrack, or when we're sitting on the tailgate in turn 3, doing the fatback report from turn 3, listening to the different stories of how you guys, save somebody's life. You know what to do. And when you start talking about having you and Brian, and I remember Kevin Dove, but I remember seeing him in his driving suit standing on the hood of that car. And there again, it just goes back and builds credibility into what I said earlier. At any given night at a racetrack, we may go there and not have, you guys may never come out of the pits. But if the rises, there are heroes that are there to perform the job.
Well, we don't latch onto that hero word too much. There's a lot greater men than us, give a lot more than us, and but we work together and do our jobs. We enjoy it. We got a great staff at Fayetteville Motor Speedway. The medical crew is independent from the fire department. That they're contracted through Dave and Shay, Skippy, Carl, Wayne. I know them all. They're all fine men, the highest of caliber. I mean, the utmost training, professional, just great, awesome men to work with. We work alongside of them. They work alongside of us. Nobody's high on nobody. We work together, and you can feel safe at Fayetteville Motor Speedway. If you knew what I know, you'd feel extremely safe. These men are great, and they love what they do. And we come out there and do it for the folks that are out there trying to enjoy themselves, spend their dollar in our community and their entertainment dollar. And we want them to feel safe. We want them to come back. That's what we're about.
Well, race fans, tonight's special guest, Lloyd Matthews, known all across Eastern North Carolina and Fayetteville, North Carolina, at the racetracks as Fatback Matthews, a member of the Pearson Mill Fire Department. These guys keep us safe on a weekly basis inside the Fayetteville Motor Speedway. And we wanted to have a show tonight just to talk about, the importance of safety and the trained professionals that we have inside the Carolina Bull Ring. We're going to take a real quick break and hear from our sponsor. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more in depth with Fatback Matthews of the Pearson Mill Fire Department right here on the Voice of Victory Lane podcast. We'll be right back. Barrier Fencing Supply is a fencing wholesaler and distributor based out of Supply, North Carolina. Whether you need fencing, fencing products, fencing accessories, or various other construction materials related to your fencing needs, we have the products you are looking for at today's most competitive prices around. Ask us today about bulk pricing packages. Call 910-269-8661. Contact us by email at sales@barrierfencingproducts.com. Barrier Fencing Supply, proud supporter of the Voice of Victory Lane podcast. And welcome back to the second part of another Inside Edition of the Voice of Victory Lane podcast with Kip Thompson. Tonight's special guest, Fatback Matthews of the Pearson Mill Fire Department. Those guys always keep us safe inside the Fayetteville Motor Speedway. You can come to any event and know that you're safe there too with those guys on hand. Now, Fatback, one thing that I want to touch on that's kind of cool that I've known that you've done over the past couple of years since I've known you and seen you kind of incorporate that as you moved your station from turn 1 down to turn 3. One of the things that's really neat is you guys may get, called out for whatever at the racetrack, if it's something in the stands or in the outside pits or they're actually on the racetrack. But one of the cool things that you kind of incorporated as kind of a signature Fatback Matthews thing that I really love is when a driver comes up to Victory Lane, you're right there on my heels. You're right there with me. And I love that because we always have a good time cutting up. But all of the drivers love it because they know when they hop out of the car and put their feet on the ground, they're going to get a cold bottle of water from Fatback Matthews.
That's right. That's right.
That's actually is that just something that you kind of started on your own, or is that something you've been doing for a while, or kind of how did that start?
Well, it started when I camped in turn 1 and 2 up there. When the drivers came across the scales, they'd be hot and smoking. And I'd give them a bottle of water when they came across the scales. I started out with Mr. David Taylor first. He was the first man. He was my buddy, David Taylor. And I'd give him some water, and then progressed. I started giving it to more folks that I knew. Some of the drivers I knew as I met them. And then when we started parking in 3 and 4 down there, um, I started giving it to the winners as they came on Victory Lane. After a long race, I know they wanted a cold drink. Anyway, I started giving it to the first one I gave it to was Christian Thomas several years ago, and started giving it to every winning driver every chance I can. If I'm not busy, everybody wins the race at Fayetteville gets a bottle of cold water off my fire truck.
Well, one thing you can count on for sure: if the firemen don't got no water, ain't nobody got none, right?
Y'all gonna be in a mess if we run out for sure.
Well, I do know that at least I know where there's 300 gallons every Saturday night in that Pierce Mill Fire Department red truck right there inside the inside hot pit area at the Fayetteville Motor Speedway. Now, I do know I talked with you last night. I know you went over to the racetrack and I saw a little bit of practice. It's gearing up, man. We're real close. North Carolina Speed Weeks comes up next Wednesday night. We'll be there together and looking for a great week. What did you see over at the racetrack last night when they were doing practice?
Good handful of cars out there practicing. Track looked great. They've been doing a lot of work over the off season. A lot of effort been put on Fayetteville Motor Speedway. There was a crowd out there to practice. Probably when I left about 7:30, probably had 25 cars, and I passed 2 or 3 on the dirt road coming in. So people out there trying to take advantage of getting on this surface and getting them new boots down and getting ready to go next week.
Well, as Fatback Matthew says, they're all getting ready to rock, Doc.
That's right.
Well, and also Fayetteville Motor Speedway is going to conduct practice this Saturday. I would say sometimes shortly after lunch they'll get started with that. But now, Fatback, how do you guys work like on a rotation? I know every Saturday night that I've been at the racetrack, I always see you and Brian, and there's some others there too. But who are some of the other guys with the fire department that may be helping you guys out at Fayetteville Motor Speedway this year?
Well, we have several. Mainly Kevin Morgan, I mentioned earlier. He helps us. Lewis Brown, he wears many hats around the racetrack, and as well as the firehouse. So Lewis is out there with me, him and his son Thomas. I have a few volunteers now and then, but I'm not a professional firefighter, full-time paid firefighter. My function mainly is Fayetteville Motor Speedway, and Brian, as I said, he loves it as good as I do. So he spends a lot of time out there with me. And if Brian's not there, I have somebody else in that seat. And it's just something we love, and that's why we give our time for it. This is not a paid gig, Mr. Thompson. We volunteer. This is a volunteer organization and a volunteer operation.
But you guys, man, like I say, you guys do an awesome job, and we're so proud to have you guys not only there with us, but we're proud to know you guys and know that when the need arises, that you guys know exactly what to do. And we appreciate what you guys do at Fayetteville Motor Speedway. And on those nights that you don't have a call, or you're called onto the racetrack, or called to the outside pits, or called to the grandstand area to attend to someone, it's probably the best fellowship that I have all the time, being with you guys down inside the hot pit area in Kipper's Corner over there, cooking up, eating up, fellowship, and sitting by the fire when it's cold, sipping cold water when it's hot. But it's all about, like I say, it's a big, huge racing family, and we're tickled to death to have you part of our racing family, and we appreciate, man, every single thing that you guys do for us.
Well, Kip, thanks. We're glad to do it. We're going to expand a little more this year. We try to run public service announcements over the PA system. I carry some fire prevention literature with me, some toys and crayons and coloring books for kids. We try to share that, and we try to do all the fire prevention work we can while we're out there. We're going to try to expand on that this year. And anybody that's on, there's a lot of young folks out there at that racetrack, and they may have an interest in the fire service. We'd love to answer any questions you have. If you're interested in volunteering at Pierce's Mill, we'd love to have you. And if you don't live here, if you're interested in volunteering at another house, we'll try to reach out and see if we can find out who to put you in touch with so you can begin maybe a career in the fire service. Just you got any questions, reach out. We'll be there to answer.
Well, let me ask you a question there now. If you, since you mentioned that, if there happens to be someone watching the show tonight, or may see you at a racetrack, or may have questions, who do they contact? Do they just come down and see you, or is there a website that they go to, or a particular number that they would call?
Well, depending on where you live or what you do, where you live, the best thing I could say is you probably pass by your volunteer fire department 1,000 times in a year's time and don't ever really pay it much mind. I'm sure they'd love to have you, don't matter where you're at. Like I said, come see me and we'll reach out to through our network. We'll reach out to the community to where you live, where you possibly want to serve. We'll do what we can to put you in contact with who you need to talk to. Don't worry about that. We can find somebody that wants your help.
All right. Well, listen, folks, you've been watching another Inside Edition of the Voice of Victory Lane podcast with Kip Thompson. Tonight was a little bit of a special show, a little bit different. We're not talking to a race car driver. We're not talking to a team member, but we're talking racing. We're talking to someone who absolutely loves racing and puts his life on the line all the time for others. Fatback Matthews and the whole entire staff at Pierce Mill Fire Department. So glad to have them a part of the Fayetteville Motor Speedway. Tonight's show is brought to you by Barrier Fence Supply out of Supply, North Carolina. They're a wholesale and distributor institute for aluminum fencing. They're working on some pretty big deals right now to bring vinyl fence into their part of the game. Be sure to visit them on their website. Reach out and call them today. They are huge supporters of the Voice of Victory Lane podcast. And be sure to tell them that Kip Thompson, the Voice of Victory Lane, sent you their way. Be sure to follow us on YouTube. Give us a like, share, and subscribe. Also, visit us on Facebook at Voice of Victory Lane. For Fatback Matthews of the Pierce Mill Fire Department, I'm Kip Thompson. Thank you so much for watching. North Carolina Speed Week's coming up next week inside the Fayetteville Motor Speedway. We look forward to seeing you. And as always, be on the lookout. We could be coming to a racetrack near you. You could be who we're talking about next, right here on the Voice of Victory Lane podcast. Good night, everybody.